And now for our politically incorrect story tonight. California Governor Jerry Brown is taking a break from running California into the ground to criticize President Trump instead. Brown said, something's got to happen to this guy because if we don't get rid of him, he's going to undermine America and even the world. Take a listen.
Hopefully this election is going to send a strong message to the country. The Democrats will win, and then Trump, well, something's got to happen to this guy, because if we don't get rid of him, he's going to undermine America and even the world.
And literally the day after Governor Moonbeam said this, the stock market hit an all-time high. Hilarious. But when Governor Brown refers to the world, he's speaking specifically of the impacts of climate change, which is ironic because when Brown had the opportunity to deal with wildfires and droughts in California, he failed miserably. So why doesn't Jerry Brown worry about his own state before he starts criticizing President Trump for ruining the world? With me now, founder and executive director of Power the Future, Daniel Turner. Daniel, good to see you.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, Daniel, Governor Brown, I think, is playing the role of Chicken Little here, saying, oh, my goodness, the sky is falling, the world's going to end. I don't see any evidence of that, even in regards to climate change issues.
No, there's certainly no evidence in regards to climate change. Actually, I just wrote a post on our website, powerthefuture.com, where there was a prediction the Maldives would be underwater within 30 years. And that's 6 days from now. So something crazy may happen in 6 days. And I'm sure if the Maldives do sink, Jerry Brown will take credit that this was climate change in action.
Listen, in the 1970s, I was doing research on this for another piece that we did on the show about a month ago. And in the 1970s, there was a prediction from the climate change community, the scientists at the time, that said that Southern California, where we shoot this show, would be underwater by the year 2000. And I said on my show, listen, I've checked, but I'm not sitting in a rowboat, so I don't think that prediction has quite come true yet. And that's always the kicker for me. When I hear the left saying, listen, climate change is terrible, we're not going to know, life isn't going to be as we know it if we don't do something. I always say, well, you said this 30 years ago. You said we're all going to be dead, and nobody is. All of these things that you said would happen due to climate change, none of them have come true. Why should we believe you now?
Exactly. And for Jerry Brown and for people who believe in this cause, there was a large summit last week that he hosted in California with famous celebrities and world leaders. And I just raised the question, how come none of them could have jumped on a conference call? Why did they all feel charter private planes, jump on jets, etc., and meet in California? I've never seen any climate change believer in his personal life live what they want the rest of us to. I've never seen them cut down their carbon footprint. Jerry Brown grew up in the 70s. I think a lot of his frustration stems from the fact that he's 80. He probably can't run for president. He has said he won't run for president, and he wishes he was still younger to fight this fight. But it's a dying philosophy, along with a lot of what came out of the 60s and 70s.
Listen, Daniel, these Hollywood celebrities, these rich people, they're not hypocrites on this, because on those private jets, those gas-guzzling jets, they don't carry any plastic straws. So we're going to be fine. The world is going to be saved here. Jerry Brown, though, and Jerry Brown has been just the worst governor. I live in California. It's absolutely terrible what's happening up and down the coast. Our taxes are astronomical. The situation on our roads are just terrible. Jerry Brown can't even fix a pothole, yet he says he can fix climate change the weather. It's absurd. He has had an opportunity to actually mitigate natural disasters, which he claims unscientifically are tied to climate change. He has had the opportunity to take action to mitigate wildfires and droughts, and he has not done that.
Exactly. And he passed through a piece of legislation recently that wants to make California, quote unquote, carbon free by 2045. But right now, California imports about 30% of its electricity. So if in its current state, it cannot provide enough electricity to power Silicon Valley, to power Hollywood, how do we think that cutting off fossil fuels is going to make a difference? And so, again, this is a swan song for an 80-year-old hippie governor, where he will not deal with the ramifications of this legislation. He won't deal with higher energy costs, and he won't deal with what it will do to the electric grid in California.
Right. It's not just climate change. This whole state is a petri dish of liberal idiocy. All you have to do is look at the legislation up in the California State Assembly, the California State Senate. I mean, they passed a law that will allow illegal immigrants to serve in our state government. That is people who are citizens of foreign nations governing us. We don't have any say in that. They can govern us, even though they're citizens of foreign nations. In San Francisco, illegal immigrants are allowed to vote. Now, this is the Democratic Party in California. And there was a bill. Thank goodness this law was overturned by the Supreme Court. Liberals in this state wanted to force pro-life crisis pregnancy centers to advertise free abortions on their wall. That's the Democratic Party of California.
It's a shame that California is playing with these liberal experiments because it does have tremendous resources. Just in the terms of oil and gas, it's the third largest oil reserves in the nation. It has the potential to be one of the largest oil producers. There is so much potential in the Monterey Shale area. California could be an economic wonder for the world, for the nation in particular, but it keeps experimenting with these ideas. It keeps pushing the climate change philosophy. And what happens is that we lose jobs, you lose human capital as people move to other states, you lose the tax revenue that comes with it. And who suffers? The ones who always suffer are the poor when their bills go up. When the electric grid crashes and electricity dies, and in a heat wave or in the freezing cold, who suffer? It's the poor, the elderly, the sick. Again, it's always these people who suffer the ramifications of liberal ideologies. People like Jerry Brown or the father of all of this funding, who is Tom Steyer, a California resident. They never suffer the consequences of their philosophy.
Right. And we know states are supposed to be laboratories of democracy. We're supposed to try different things. I'm not opposed to that idea. I think that's a good idea. What I am opposed to is when liberals are so idiotic that they don't recognize when their stupid policies hurt the people. That negates the point of a state being a laboratory of democracy, when you don't acknowledge that your experiment was an abysmal failure, as everything that Governor Brown has imposed on the state has been since the day he was sworn into office. Daniel, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.